welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another review of The Last of Us on Big Gold Belt. It's your boy Lou here with my child, my first seed, Terrell. What's going on, sir?
What's going on? What's going on? Episode 5,
So
baby. Episode 5.
there you go, episode 5, and we are going to entitle this because again we're watching screeners, so none of them have titles. So I am taking my time out to name all these episodes so I don't get confused, and we're going to name this one "What Would You Do for Love?" after a famous Tupac song, because that's kind of the basis of this episode is the things you do for love for your loved ones and the consequences that you have to deal with from those actions. So we pick up on this episode with a tiny bit of a flashback, kind of one that caught me a little bit off guard because I thought this incident went back further than they showed initially. I thought like we were going to go back years. Instead, it looks like we went back only a couple of days to when Kathleen, am I saying it right? Kathleen?
Yes, Kathleen. Yeah.
I don't know why I want to say Catherine. It's names with K with certain races of people always confuse me. But Kathleen here, and we get when she took over the resistance, when the resistance took over Kansas City and the chaos and everything that happened, and just her pursuit of Henry. What did you think about this opening part of this episode as we got the mini flashback? Then we get a little bit forward to current time, but we also see what Henry and Sam went through at the time we saw everything going on with Ellie and Joel.
I mean, I knew we were coming directly into a flashback because that's the show. We got to fill in the lines here. But yeah, just getting a little bit more of like, why is Kathleen so pissed off? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like because before it's just like, I'm just an angry bitch. I just want to kill everybody. Now we get a little bit of glimpse of like what's making her tick through this and kind of what Henry did. You know what I mean? Now that we know, unfortunately, I was right the last episode, and I feel like I called it down to a T. I mean, it was pretty obvious, but just like I said, I knew the whole thing with Henry and Sam was coming, and but they never really go into detail as to why he was kind of on the run. I feel like they did, and they glimpsed over it. It was just like, all right, we just trying to get out of here. They never going any more than that. But yeah, it started off pretty strong, man. Like you said last week, episode 5 was going to be the banger, like the one that ramp everything up. And
exactly. Now, so in the game, it never really goes into detail. I'm assuming much about the backstory, Henry and Sam. What did you?
Not to this extent. Like they talk about it like, hey, same situation where he was ratting people out to Fedra. And because apparently that's the thing. I just wish he wasn't black, doing that. But
he's Gunna. So we're gonna call him Gunna from now on.
Gunna
people out the feds. It's fine.
Oh my god. But yeah, like I said, I mean, like a lot of the game is even though there are lengthy cutscenes where like stuff happens, they don't go into with this much detail, obviously. Like I said, we know we did something wrong, and we knew he was trying to get out of there with his brother, in the same situation, same disability, everything happened.
Oh, so he's deaf in the game also.
Yeah.
Okay, that is one of the most touching parts of this episode is just that relationship that you see between Henry and Sam. And even from the beginning, from when they get into the little bunker and he's like, man, it's ugly in here. And we see him draw the little heroes everywhere else as it's like a form of escapism that I think the audience gets to experience with Sam and everything he's doing just to escape an environment that he's clearly terrified of.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said at the beginning, it's like pretty much like can't remember the guy's name. It's like when he feels that you're scared, he's scared. He can see that you're scared. He feels scared. So that's a lot of the reason why they probably had a lot of the illustrations, especially in his surroundings of just something positive in their world that's going on, and just jumps into that comment that I mean we talk about Joe makes about it's a lot easier kind of being a kid because you don't see the world the way that they do. They don't have those responsibilities. So that was obviously one of the reasons why you get a lot of those illustrations and stuff around. Is it Sam? Sam.
Sam. Now, one of the key pivotal moments is when they do get to this bunker and they escape, and then the guy goes missing. I love this setup because the audience, we know why the guy went missing because the guy's been captured at this point. But I do like the way they played this as a way to really reintroduce us to the current timeline. As we see from this point on, where Henry and Sam must leave where they're at because they have no food. So they have to escape to somewhere.
When they last
and we see, exactly. Shane Beans with that dude almost made them starve to death. But then they escape, and we see they go exactly to where Ellie and Joel are.
Right.
And then we get what we got at the end of episode 4, which is them kind of ambushing them in a way, but doing it in a way of basically saying, like,
very politely,
just need help. Exactly. Very politely, because they only did it for the purpose of getting help.
Right.
In the game, is this anywhere close to the way that these 4 characters met each other?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Same way.
Yeah. some of that filled in between. Yeah. Because every house in The Last of Us looks like a crack house for some reason. And
Baltimore. Last of Us is in Baltimore. That's what it is.
Not even in Baltimore. But
I know Baltimore when I see Baltimore, sir. They can call it whatever they want to. That is Baltimore. I know what I saw Druid Park right there. I said, "Look, that's Druid Park." I know what I see.
Look, Baltimore ain't getting nothing filmed at HBO in a long time, so we gotta let that. I can't.
I literally just had "We Own the City." 4 months ago.
A long time. But it's pretty spot on to the similar, some of the similarities. Some of the stuff in the middle there definitely did not happen, because this is like a lot self-contained, and you spend a lot of time playing through on your journey with them. So I think the game definitely gives you kind of puts more weight there, because you get a lot more time exchange other than like what's shown here in like 20 minutes. So you get a lot more feel about, for whatever happens. But yeah, you a lot of that is I think pretty spot on to where the game was.
Okay. So the next thing we get after they agree to help out is Henry? I don't know why I got that confused that fast. Henry's plan to escape Kansas City through the tunnels, which he kind of brought up a tunnel system beforehand.
Right.
But here they bring up again the tunnel system as a way to escape to Joel. And this is where you get a real touching moment, not only just between Sam and Ellie, as we see them bonding, as not amazingly, it's 2 children finally getting to be around another kid. It's
right.
That nice bonding moment there, but just the seriousness of Henry and Joel here. Now, through the setup, through the tunnels, through everything that happens before they get to the little hidden bunker in the tunnels, what did you think this episode was going down the path of? Especially when Henry mentions it, like the reason they don't have infected is because they were all driven underground.
Smart.
Where did you think this was going to go to? Not before we get to the big end of the closing, but before they got to the children's bunker, where did you think this was going to?
Quite honestly, I thought they were going to have to fight through a herd of infected to get to the bunker. I thought it was going to be more of a perilous journey there.
Yeah.
And as Henry kept saying, like, hey, I told you it was safe. You trust me. He knew what he was doing. After we just foreshadowed, infected try to come out of the ground. The last episode. So of course, your mind's going to be like, yo, they about to deal with some crap here. And surprisingly, it's not what happened.
Exactly.
Because like a lot, I don't remember in the game like going through a tunnel. I feel like everything was like above ground in the house, like in houses.
Wow.
Like, I don't remember that being a tunnel part. I had to jump back and look, but I do not remember that being like a tunnel scene. But
so in other words, they possibly used what was real in Kansas City as a way to give you a different element to the show from the game.
Right.
Like this is a real tunnel system. It's a real tunnel system like this in Kansas City. So I figured they probably thought, like, let's take advantage of this and get some great story purposes out of it. Because I absolutely love when they get underground and we see all the paintings on the wall, because it kind of reminds you at the beginning of the episode with what Henry was having Sam do. And then we get to the bunker and we see that there were people down there with rules in place. And yet and still, as Joel said, none of them followed the rules. That's how they all got infected, and that's how they all died. What did you think about this part of the episode with them in a bunker and the bonding that tends to happen there? At this point, were you hoping like, oh man, maybe we'll get these 4 together for at least a couple of episodes here?
I really was, man, and I kind of pissed me off because the episode slightly gave me hope, because I already had the foreknowledge of what was going to happen, and I was hoping that this was going to be another change it up a bit moment that they've been doing so far, like as far as comparisons. But that I know how essential that particular moment is to the rest of their journey and like what they go through. And yet another moment of like, yo, you can't really trust anybody, you can't meet friends. Just really, like Bill was saying, this is how you stay alive, by not getting involved in relationships like that, or have anything tie you down. But yeah, man, I was really hopeful that they was going to change it up, and unfortunately, they let me down. Especially because the third black person, he was, 3. Yeah, that's a joke so far. So they like mixed in with the army somewhere, but you don't really see a lot of them. But like, yeah,
about camouflage. It works perfectly against our skin. But here we also get the most pivotal part of the episode in the bunker, and that is Henry fully fleshing out his backstory of why they're hunting him down. And then we get to see Catherine talk about it. And all I want to ask about this moment is, because to me, from storytelling purposes, at this point, is Kathleen even a villain? Because the reason she wants Henry makes perfectly good sense. And Henry regrets what he did. So he kind of understands why they want him dead here. What did you think? Because I know you said in the game they don't really flesh out Henry's backstory. What did you think about this being the purpose that they were hunting him down? And did that change your perception of the character, not only from this episode, but what you knew from the game?
I think the perception of that story is fully gamed upon them showing who's going to be a main character, who we supposed to care about. If that was Joel or Ellie and they did something like that, then they'd be like, oh, okay, they're the main characters, you know what I mean? Like we can't be mad, but you get, like you said, Kathleen's not really a villain. She's doing the same thing that anybody would have done if in her situation. This dude ratted on my brother, got him killed, regardless of how he would have felt about letting him go and forgiving him. I ain't feeling that way about it. You know what I mean? Half this show is like revenge, or half this game is like revenge, and just trying to what you'll do to get it, yada yada. But we get a lot of that here, where, like you said, it's completely not unreasonable that Kathleen is not in the wrong here. She just happens to be on the wrong side of the story.
Exactly. And that's why I consider this episode like, what would you do for love? Because clearly she's doing this for the love of her brother. In return, Henry only did it for the love of his brother. Is the reason why. And you hear the way he talks about Michael, like he admired him, like he looked up to him, but he had to do what he had to do to save his brother's life. I thought that was a great parallel to see that these two people are only doing this for the purpose of their brothers. One to save their brother, the other one to revenge their brother. It's an amazing parallel that they played right there, back and forth with one another. Now, other quick question here. Did you think Joel, Ellie, Sam, and Henry's time in the tunnel was too short? Because it kind of felt like they went from one moment being in the tunnel to the next moment, we're we're free now. All of a sudden, it seemed to
Yeah.
go by extremely fast. When I thought
Yeah.
maybe we would get a little bit more play in how this system works, because if the system was that short to begin with, I mean, couldn't everyone have always done that?
Yeah, I definitely think they should have gave more time on just them together, just building up that relationship. So that, like I said, maybe another episode at least. Jeez, but I thought that ain't nobody getting 2 episodes.
Hey,
But
you get Tess got an episode and a half, so ain't nobody can ain't nobody else get 2 episodes.
yeah, man. But I would, like I said, I wish they would have built that more. I wish they would have made me feel something a little bit more about his character, because like, Joel was opening up to this guy like, oh man, I like this guy, come on the journey, man. And he's opening up to him. He's starting to, hey, I got a kid too, you got a kid, we both doing what we need to do, and so on and so on. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They definitely, it was short, and I wish we could have got more to build up that finale.
Exactly. And I agree with your point so much, I'm not even going to point out the Baltimore came out there of you when you said dude. Heard it completely clear as day. Baltimore came completely out of you there. But next up, we get the Pinnacle, the explosive elements of the episode. As they think they're about to escape to the water, they get a guy shooting from them at the house, and Joel does what Joel does, only to find out the guy was there for the militia, and it was all a setup from the beginning. What did you just think about this entire scene, from the setup, which was amazing to me, from them being cornered to an explosion that you kind of thought was secondary in nature, and it unleashes a horde of clickers? What did you just think about this whole setup, this entire scene, from the beginning of it, the way they set it up, all the way to, I would say, to the end of it, to the huge giant clicker came out and started wrecking everything humanly possible? What did you just think about this part of the episode?
Man, it was amazing, and it was I think, like you said, episode 5. It was amazing. They did a really good job of filming this. It was done excellently. I love Joel completely. It's kind of fucked up that Henry is like, look, he I seen you kill that guy. I know you gonna kill everybody along the way for me, because Henry's not a killer. But back to this part of the episode where Joel runs up on the sniper, and again, kind of not proving Henry's point here about him kind of being a killer. He literally gives him a chance, and he says, look, man, he pauses and said, nah, look, you could just chill here, let me get that gun, we gonna move on.
Exactly.
And we see that Joel, again, is not a monster. He does feel, he does have, sometimes let his guard down, even though it's stupid for certain people. He gives them a chance at least. And it just ramps up from there, man. I really, militia comes in. I don't know why Ellie was shooting back at an armored truck, wasting bullets. Really pissed me off.
Because she's a kid. She don't know no better.
I'm like, are they just not driving this truck fast enough? Or are they just that damn fast they able to outrun this vehicle? But I'm like, okay, whatever. Eventually Joel, snipes through the window, hits the guy, and they come out, and Henry, I thought they were going to shoot him right then and there in that scene.
Yeah,
I thought
it looks like it.
Like I'm like, oh, we changed. I was like, cool, at least they changed something. And that was not the case. And of course, me foreshadowing last episode, I'm like, oh man, this is going to come back and play, and somehow going to save them, and it did. So, it came out, and because of course we've seen the screener. So I don't know if all the CG was completely tightened on that. So when I watched it again, some of it was a little shaky in that scene. And I believe that large infected is, I want to say that one is the Berserker. Did they call it? Like they got like.
Hold up, they have I've heard of Berserkers before, so they have a Berserker. Wow. See, look, Berserkers have been around in any form of sci-fi for years now. They have a Berserker clicker like this. Okay, I keep on saying The Last of Us steals from lots of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's definitely biting, but we're not going to admit that on camera. And then of course, like all hell breaks loose. And they got all the infected come out of the ground. Kathleen and her crew are getting attacked. Now it's something that I missed, and I feel like it happened so fast. I don't know if I saw it. Kathleen died in this, right? Like they caught her, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, right when she was about to, right when for some odd reason everyone's escaping after she was told to run in the opposite direction, as Henry and the kids are about to enter the house to safety, she stops them because for some odd reason, again, what would you do for love? It can also blind you. And it blinded her so much so that she didn't notice the clicker who was climbing up about to take her out. Like it's one of those things where again, she was so focused on Henry, she just let everything else around her be oblivious.
She said
And
she
it's
didn't
kind
care.
of what, yeah, it's kind of what happened when they saw the ground move, and she was like, "Oh, we'll deal with this later," because the whole purpose is she was so focused on getting Henry, she didn't care about
Right.
anything else. And that same focus, it was her downfall there at that moment of just not being aware that the clicker could pop out anywhere at you because they're everywhere.
Yeah, they came
So it
out
made no sense to try to do that at that point in time. But after the huge melee, which again looks great, this is why you have HBO do this type of show, because you need a budget possible to pull off the effects here. Now, we didn't see full effects because we have seen a screener here, but I understood where the full effects were going to and the nature that everything was done here. And
Mhm.
just to pull off this big of a moment in a television show doesn't happen too often. It's another zombie show that would struggle to try to do something of this nature.
Right.
Just because of budgetary reasons. That's it. But with the budget here, we get this amazing moment, and then we get stillness again, which is always a good thing as we go back to it just being Joel, Henry, Sam, and Ellie as they're bunkered down in his home, and we see more bonding between Henry and Joel. Just for the whole part of this scene here between them two, uh, even down to making a joke about the comic. Like, I don't want to say had hope, but in the game, do we get this type of bonding between Joel and Henry?
Yes.
Wait, so did they just take everything from the game and just put it
Yeah.
into this
Like
moment?
for the majority, yeah. I mean, like of course, yeah. Like the plan was for them to continue and going together, and they did. And they did have a couple bonding moments through the game because, like I said, it's a lot of walking and talking, walking and talking. So
Yeah.
there's a lot more being explained as you're walking through the game, and
Hmm.
as you get through cutscenes and stuff like that, and so you're with Henry and Sam for a little minute. So when that moment happens, you're just so shocked that you gotta put your controller down, like, yo, what just happened? Like what?
Okay.
Now my
Okay.
question for you is, did you expect any of that to happen? Because obviously I knew. Did you expect
From
that
a
to happen?
from a storytelling standpoint, yes.
Hmm.
Well, I expected the infection to happen to Sam.
Yeah,
That was
anytime
kind of,
somebody tussle at this point, you might
yeah,
as well just
exactly.
expect them to get
That,
bit.
that was that was kind of foreshadowed, and a little bit under the car when it fully grabbed him, when it was able to fully grab Sam, as you saw him kicking with one leg while he had the other leg. I kind of figured then it was a chance he was going to get infected,
Hmm.
so that part didn't surprise me. Everything else after that caught me a little bit off guard of Henry's reaction, not to Henry having to do what he does. As again, we can talk about it now because it's the last part of the episode, and that is Henry after Sam and Ellie have this touching moment where she thought her blood could heal him, which
Yeah,
unto
that's
itself
not
is a
how it
great
works.
thing. Yeah, exactly. I mean, science knows that's not how that works, but here you just see a moment between two kids and her wanting to do whatever she could to save her friend's life. And I love that moment when she cuts her arm and says, "My blood is medicine." And she rubs it on him as she's thinking, this is going to heal him. This is going to save him, because it shows her humanity and how much she didn't want to be alone. Because at this point, I don't think it's about her being alone left with Joel. I think it was her having someone she related to more in that moment. And that moment was with her and Sam. And they, being kids, they can relate to each other a lot better than adults could.
Right.
So just her having that moment of wanting to save his life, I thought that was a great moment in this episode. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like that. Like I said, that was a freaking touching moment, and just kind of like how the whole thing is kind of silently exchanged, and you can still feel the emotion without hearing voices of how Sam is like telling her like this has happened, and she they have the exchange where she shows her her arm, and he's like, oh, like you should be done pretty much, like, but he's not saying it, but you can hear, and as she cuts herself like she's doing a blood sacrifice, and and just rubs it on his leg, expecting that to be the cure. Um, and
Hey, Chuck, it worked for Chucky.
oh my god.
See, she just didn't say the was it Talung Town better? The power prevailed. That's all she needed to do. She did that. I think she'd have saved him.
Oh my goodness! But even like the scene where they for whatever reason she decided to go to sleep, wakes up and he's just chilling on the side of the bed, and he must have knew because he wrote down that the message and everything like that at some point. And I, like I said, they don't need to give you that detail. We just see it happen. He turns, whatever, and it's all one thing. But they don't give you that much time in between. But yeah, that scene was great.
Even down to when Ellie escapes the room, and Joel goes for the gun first, and Henry grabs it, and when Ellie hits that final scream, and Henry shoots Sam, like his reaction there was amazing, because he's like, what did I just do? What did I like? It's the realization of it's something I had to do, but I literally just put myself at risk. I did everything in the world to save his life. And something that Kathleen said is maybe he was always meant to die. And it kind of foreshadows that he would have to pull the trigger to kill him. Because again, once a life is meant to be, a life is meant to be is basically what she was saying. And it kind of came to fruition in that moment.
Right.
So right after that, we get the big burial scene at the end of the episode, and we get them continuing on their walking journey. Just, are you telling me that's how they died in the video game? Because that sounds like a depressing video game.
Yeah. The game is mad depressing, dude. The game is mad depressing. Like, that is the game.
How are y'all excited about this show and this game is just depressing?
Both of those games is some of the most depressing storytelling. Jesus Christ! Like, they just want you to cry. They try so many moments where, hey, you like this character? All right.
Wow.
It's like every time Ellie and Joel meet somebody.
So in other words, then the show is being very faithful to the book. I mean, to the video game. Yeah. If every time they meet someone, they die, so far, everyone they've ran into is dead.
Except
so
Bill.
It kind of fits.
Bill didn't
Except
die.
For who?
Bill didn't die.
Bill did die.
Not in the game.
Oh, not in the game he did. Okay, I'm about to say, Bill rotted in the house with his husband.
Yeah, that was real cute. Real Romeo and Juliet.
Wow. So again, Last of Us, episode 5. What would you do for love? That's the name I'm giving it. Terrell, what are your final thoughts on episode 5?
They handled this well, and I'm very impressed with this episode. It took us a while to get here. Didn't think it'd be episode 5, but it took us a while to get here. And they saved the best for the middle, and gave us good gunfight, good explosion. Super sort of mini villain that didn't last but 30 seconds. And just letting us know that ain't gonna be no black companions along this journey. So
clearly.
It's just
Negroes didn't survive the fungus. That's what I'm getting at this point. That's what I'm getting at this point.
I mean, they did a good. I mean, like I said, I'll look again when the final version comes out, but see how they hit the animation, because a lot of the effect when it came out that looked really good. It's just when Big Dude came out, I'm like, y'all could have just used practical. Just had a dude in the suit or something like that. He had Steve do that. Like, that was just unnecessary. Yeah, but they handled the episode well, man. I think a lot of people going, especially the new audience, never that knows nothing about this IP. I think it's going to hit them like, oh, Henry and Sam, let's get on this journey. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it does happen like that. And I get to watch it twice.
Exactly. Like to me, this episode really helped focus the show or focus the audience on what the show is going to be about. Because granted, it's always great to get introduced to other characters, but this is a show about Joel and Ellie. That's what you always got to remember here. And this is the first time when they're going on their little journey that it just felt complete. Because at times you still need them to play off of someone else. And just the banter between at times of Henry and Joel and the playfulness and the innocence of Ellie and Sam, I thought worked great in this episode, along with having big action set pieces. I can almost say out of everything in this episode, the action set pieces were my least favorite, and those were great. But it was just the moments that you got, the humanizing of Joel in a way, the playfulness of Ellie that you get to see with a kid. I love those elements of this episode. So to me, it worked. This is the best, as I expected, with it being episode 5. This is the best episode so far in this early season of The Last of Us.
And then, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say the episode also shows us the trust meter being built between Ellie and Joel. And I say that obviously because they have a Aladdin and Jasmine moment where he says, "Do you trust me?" But
wow, that's the comparison. Like you can think of nothing that was an adult and a child.
I just recently watched it.
Aladdin and Jasmine. It is sick. You are a sick individual, sir.
But now I think about it, but
exactly.
The scene where Joel is like, "Hey, you got your gun?" Like trusting her with the gun now, and he sees her pull out her pocket after telling him to keep it in the bag because he already knew. So we see a lot of.
And then we saw how good that worked out. She was shooting at a tank that she couldn't possibly hit with her gun.
Man, not just say ammo is scarce. She don't listen. But but yeah, it was a good episode, man. It was really good.
So again, this has been another episode 5 of The Last of Us. You can check us out every Sunday after the episode airs on HBO Max or after you watch it on regular HBO, which for some odd reason people still watch regular HBO.
And you can like and subscribe, mash that button when you get a chance. Come on and leave those comments below. Let us know what you thought about it. I love to read the feedback, man. I love to read from all you haters. Please put your comments down below. Let me know.
Hey, man, look how awesome it goes when he puts on his little YouTube voice. I'm never putting on a YouTube voice. It's humanly impossible at this point. Yeah. But again, check us out every Sunday after the episode airs. Peace, people.
See you.